32 teams began the quest, 14 battled to the playoffs, and now only 2 remain standing. Welcome to the pre-Super Bowl edition of Betting with the Barbers, powered by Superbook Sports. Ron Kruk, joined as always by the stars of the show, former New York Giant Tiki Barber and former Tampa Bay Buck Rondé Barber. There they are. Guys, I was set to talk about 2 incredible championship games, but we've had a couple of bombs drop in the NFL this week, so we'll touch on that first. Let's begin with the news of the week and former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores filing a lawsuit, basically suing the NFL and 3 of its teams, the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Broncos, for racial discrimination in their hiring process. Now, the civil complaint also claims tanking and tampering allegations, alleging that Dolphins owner Stephen Ross said he would pay Flores $100,000 for every loss the team had in 2019 so they could get that top draft pick. There's a lot to dissect and analyze with this lawsuit. We are a wagering show, but you guys have almost 30 years of experience between you in this league, and I know fans want to get your opinions and your thoughts. So, Tiki, let's begin with you in this situation with Brian Flores.
Yeah, I talked about this a lot on my radio show on WFAN with me and Brandon Tierney, and it's complicated because you're right. It is a civil suit, a class action civil suit. But why does there's so many questions that go along with it? Including the Miami Dolphins firing of Brian Flores, citing a couple of instances. One, the throwing of the games for $100,000 each. Then there's also a mysterious quarterback who he was supposed to meet on Steve Ross's yacht, which he did not, meet on him with. And then the incohesive nature of his relationship with Chris Grier and whether that actually caused the firing or not. The other side of it, the racist hiring practices of the league, is a strong claim. We know that the league has not done a great job in hiring minorities at their head coaching positions. I mean, save for the Washington football team, who have a black president, a black general manager, and a Latino head coach, most of these NFL teams don't have that kind of diversity. And so we know that this is an issue, but does it take a lawsuit in order to make the needle move? The answer is we don't know, but there are a lot of allegations getting thrown against the Denver Broncos, the Miami Dolphins, and in particular, my New York Giants that I take umbrage with. It's one thing to feel that you are affronted because Bill Belichick, who doesn't work for the New York Giants, by the way, sent you an erroneous text message claiming that he knew who was going to be the next head coach and it wasn't him. So therefore, your interview is a sham. Bill Belichick did that, not anyone with the Giants, and then claimed that the Giants are racist in their hiring practice. You're impugning their integrity, their character, and I have a problem with that. The Giants had one of the early black general managers who won 2 championships in Jerry Reese. Their director of pro scouting, Mark Ross, was also African American. And one of their VPs and head of training, athletic training, Ronnie Barnes, he's black and he's been there for 40 years. I know personally that this team isn't racist. And so the insinuation is hurtful and it's mean. Does that mean that the Rooney Rule is flawed? I mean, not flawed. Of course, the Rooney Rule is flawed. We know that. But to me, it's a generational change. It's going to take more African Americans in the coaching ranks, more African Americans getting in the process early and rising quickly, like D'Amico Ryans, who was a great defensive coordinator in just one season with the San Francisco 49ers, like Aaron Glenn, who's a defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, who rose really quickly up the ranks. It's going to happen. It's just taking a lot longer than a lot of people expected.
I think that's what, Tiki. I think the if you're asking about the intent of the Rooney Rule, it does not work. And I think what Brian Flores is concerned about, or where the basis of this claim comes from, is the fact that he was interviewed for a job when the job was already hired. So the only reason, because if Brian Flores was a white male coach, or female coach for that matter, it doesn't matter. If he was a white male and he was hired or he was interviewed for that job after Brian Daboll had been named the coach, this is a non-issue, right? team wants to get in front of a new coach, maybe potentially hire him as a coordinator, whatnot. The problem here is that in order to satisfy the Rooney Rule, the Giants brought in a coach after they had decided already who was going to be the coach. So
allegedly,
yeah,
allegedly, but
Good point.
that is the basis of the claim in the suit, correct? Right. I'm not saying it's true or false. I don't know, dude. I live in Tampa, Florida. I never knew he went to New York to go to interview. Didn't know Brian Daboll went to. The suit says this, right? And that's what he's claiming, that the Rooney Rule is only in place to give guys an opportunity or give teams an opportunity to interview black candidates, whether they're going to be hired or not. Now, I think where Brian Flores has this correct is that most of these owners, for whatever reason, look at black candidates and only look at it through the spectrum of the Rooney Rule. They don't look at a black candidate like the ones you suggested, like Raheem. He's my guy. He got hired in Tampa because he was already on staff, and I don't even know if the Rooney Rule applied. They just didn't want to lose Raheem Morris, and then he go on to be the next Mike Tomlin. That was the impetus for Raheem Morris becoming head coach in Tampa. Bumped the Rooney Rule, had nothing to do with it. Now it seems like because of the last 3 or 4 years of black coaches being interviewed and getting no traction as head coaches, not getting the jobs, just being used in his words to satisfy this rule. Now you got to dig really deep into this to decide if the Rooney Rule is even worth it, or if it's really a moral obligation for owners to have to interview black coaches. But the reality is the vast majority of the league is black. The vast majority of coaches in the NFL are becoming black, and they're not becoming head coaches. There is no question about that. How this solves this class action lawsuit, I have no idea. I can't wait to see how it does, but it is an issue, and at least we're talking about it because it is an issue. I know I have a lot of friends. You have a lot of friends, Tiki. There are black coaches in the NFL that will never aspire to be head coach because they think they can't get there, and that is unfortunate.
Well, the process it's heavily flawed, but I think it's working in the general manager front office world. The Rooney Rule is working. There've been a lot of minority hires as general managers, but here's what we are discounting when it comes to a general manager in the NFL, because you're increasingly seeing the tie between the general manager and the head coach, as it should be. Your coach, Bruce Arians, why was he hired by Jason Light? Because they worked together for a long time in Arizona. When you look at Kyle Shanahan, he was brought in with John Lynch at the same time. Why? Because they had worked a lot. They knew each other. They're like best friends. And so there was a familiarity. When you look at Joe Shane, who's the new general manager of the New York Giants, one of his closest ties is Brian Daboll, who became the head coach. Now, was he the front runner? Most likely. Did they completely dismiss and only token interview Brian Flores? I don't think that's the case. I know for a fact it's not. John Mara reached out to him before the process even started and said, before you even think about taking another job, well, I want to let you know that we're interested in you. Now, he didn't have to do that. He could have just requested an interview. And so to me, I think the Giants did the process the correct way. They interviewed Patrick Graham internally. They interviewed Leslie Frazier, who's external, and they interviewed Brian Flores, who came in thinking that this was a sham interview. So maybe he didn't do great in the interview, and that's why Daboll ultimately got the job. Because think about the impetus to this. It was Bill Belichick sending a text message erroneously. There's nobody from the Giants. He didn't have an indication internally from the New York Giants that they were going to hire Brian Daboll. He got an accusation or an allegation from Bill Belichick, not
anyone with the Giants.
Before you continue, I think the question is not necessarily about the Giants. It's the Giants.
But it is because it's the reason.
Because the Giants are getting sued. Yes, you have a personal affront to it. But I think the reality of this conversation should focus on what is the purpose and the actionable result of the Rooney Rule. Has it worked? Right now?
No.
There's one.
So what are you trying to do? Change the Rooney Rule? Is that the call? Is that what can you do? The only way to change this process is that if more black coaches become defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. And the only way that's going to happen is if black athletes or young coaches rise faster. And we know why white quarterbacks rise quick, because they crash out. Some of them crash out early. They immediately become coaches. You know what I mean? They don't wait for 5 or 6 years. What am I going to do with my? I'm going to go good. They go right into the process, and they become assistants, and they become quarterback coaches, and they call offensive play callers, and eventually they're offensive coordinators, and then they're head coaches. It's changing. Trust me. 5 years ago, 8 years ago, brother, there were not black quarterbacks in the National Football League. You could say, oh,
very true.
The NFL has a problem with black quarterbacks. Now we've had 2 win the MVP in the last 3 years, and some of the young prospects that are coming out of college, Kyler Murray, who won the Rookie of the Year, this kid from Liberty, who nobody's seen playing, is going to be a first-round draft pick. He's a black quarterback. It's not the taboo, but it took a generation. It's generational. A generation is 30 years. Someone goes 30 years, has a child, that child grows up. That's a generation.
Preach it to the choir. Look, there's two guys that have done exactly what you said, and neither one of them have gotten head coaching jobs. Eric Bieniemy,
yeah, but there's some complications behind Eric Bieniemy that you're discounting, brother.
Byron Leftwich, and there might be the same complications behind that. But
no,
is that any different than Josh McDaniels getting a job 2 or 3 years into being a coordinator in New England, and then failing 2 years in in Denver, and then going back to New England, and now being another hot candidate while these other guys are getting the opportunity? Okay. I see what you're saying. You're 100% correct. I'm just talking about the process, and the prospect of hiring black coaches has not changed. In fact, it's probably gotten even a little bit more scrutinous because of the way that this Rooney Rule has been implied. You're getting interviewed, and you're not getting the jobs. We're forced to interview you, and we're still not giving you the jobs. Has the Rooney Rule worked? I'm saying absolutely not. It has not worked.
But it has. When you talk about general managers, there are a lot of black general managers in the National Football League. And the thing I wanted to say, and I know we need to move on to Tom Brady, but at this point, who cares about Tom Brady? We know what his accolades were. We knew how great he was. His 7 Super Bowls and going to Tampa, and he's a legend. It is what it is. But it's not a provocative conversation. The provocative conversation is what's the NFL doing to address its biggest problem that's been there for a long time. When Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah got hired as the general manager to the Minnesota Vikings, he knows as a minority he's got to get his first hire correct, right? I'm sure that he interviewed some minority candidates, and one of them, D'Amico Ryans, who I mentioned earlier, pulled his name from consideration. So did he fully comply with the Rooney Rule? I don't know, but he knows that his first hire has to be somebody who's going to be successful. Otherwise, it reflects poorly on him, and he might be out of a job. So who does he go to? Who does he reach out to? Someone who he knows intimately because he was the director of football research at the San Francisco 49ers when the San Francisco 49ers went from a dumpster fire to 3 years under Harbaugh, going to a Super Bowl, winning an NFC championship, and winning 10-plus games in 3 straight seasons, and Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has used the NFL as a springboard for his increased salaries at Michigan for years. But now he's got a friend, a trusted colleague, as a general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, and it looks like the Vikings are going to hire Jim Harbaugh. So it's like you're discounting why a general manager hires a coach. It's not because that guy, he looks good. It's because they trust him, they know him, and they know he's not going to screw it up. And when you don't do that, because I know this personally, the Giants have done this for 6 years with 3 straight hires until Brian Daboll. They've hired someone who they just felt like, that could be a good. Yeah, he fixed Eli Manning, Ben McAdoo. Yeah, look what Pat Shurmur did with the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, Joe Judge was recommended by Bill Belichick again. They didn't do the process correctly, and it failed. So right now, a lot of general managers are doing what they know, which is trusting those people that they believe can be the best head coaches and not ones that they're guessing might be a good head coach.
Guys, we could go on and on about this situation, and we could. I mean, this is a huge topic. We haven't even touched on the tampering and everything else that it goes into this civil lawsuit. I do want to quickly say that the NFL has responded to the statement, basically releasing a statement saying that these claims are without merit. All three teams have also made statements denying the allegations. There is so much more to come with this situation, and we will definitely talk about it in the future. Tiki, as we move on, I do want to, you mentioned Tom Brady. I mean, not too many stories could steal the thunder of arguably the GOAT retiring, but this one certainly did. Tom Brady announces his retirement. Rondé, I do want to get your take, since you are the one that's been campaigning for Brady to win the NFL MVP awards. Your reaction to when you heard the news?
If the NFL honors in a week and a half or so, Tom Brady will be the MVP. He probably solidified it by retiring this this week. This is a story that's a non-story at this point, because when it was released X number of days ago, however many long ago that Adam Schefter broke this story, Tom eventually saying yes, that he was going to retire was a source of speculation or whatnot. But the fact that everybody that was talking about it was so confident, I'm sure if there was a bet still laying out there waiting for Tom to actually say that he was retiring, I wouldn't have taken it, because he was done. It was very clear to me that after somebody jumped the gun, I think Tom's not totally in control of his Twitter account, just like most people aren't. He can get into it, but so can somebody else. And hey, we were planning on putting this out. Oh, wait a minute, not yet. Yeah, it doesn't change much unless you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because they don't have a quarterback now. Blaine Gabbert's looking like your starting quarterback right now.
Yikes!
If you're still playing, sorry, I mean to laugh about that, but it's true.
Yeah.
Or Kyle Trask, or one of these other potential free agents in March, whatever, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, whatever. And I say Andrew Luck, maybe he comes back, but no, seriously, it's he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. His record says that. He transformed 2 franchises, one in 1 year. I think it goes without saying what he means to this game, what he means to the 2 teams that he played for and won championships for. You just have to respect him. You love him for what he is as a football player, the winner that he was, the way that he transformed players on those teams. I don't think anybody that played with him would argue that he was probably the greatest player they ever played with, just because of the way
that's the legacy. Rondé, that's his legacy. His legacy is obviously he's the greatest winner ever, and that's just fact. That's just statistical fact. From the MVPs and the All Pros and the Pro Bowls,
7
Super Bowls, and 3, I think, Super Bowl MVPs.
Right.
That's just fact. But it's the intangible that we don't necessarily see unless you're a teammate of his and see his work ethic and his dedication and his fire. To improve everybody around him. That's really his legacy. That's what makes him the GOAT. The winning was just the consequence of all of that process that he was a part of. And there was always that conversation up in New England about the Patriot way. And when Tom Brady leaves, will the Patriot way still be there? Will it allow Bill Belichick to have that success? But what you find is that the Patriot way, just like any narrative that exists in a head coach's head, it's only as good as the disseminators, right? Those that are empowered below him to push that similar message out. And Tom Brady did that, obviously, with great success in New England. He took it to Tampa, and you saw all of a sudden guys who were upset about not making the Pro Bowl. Who was that, Rondé? I forget who that was last year. That was upset he didn't make the Pro Bowl or wasn't all pro. One of the linebackers. And Tom Brady calmed them down and basically said, we got a bigger picture here. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Devin, second-year linebacker.
Devin Bush. And so all of a sudden, Devin White. Bush is up in Pittsburgh. Devin White. And it made a big difference, right? And that type of confidence is something that's hard to find in any organization. And when Tom Brady brought that, it made him the ultimate champion. I think that more than anything is what teams that were privy to his services are going to miss. He's a great quarterback. Yeah, he threw for 5,300 yards this year and all those touchdowns, etc. But it's that other thing that's so much more important. And teams that don't have that, they often falter.
Such a good point. 22 NFL seasons. We threw all the stats out, 7 Super Bowl victories, 20 seasons with New England, 2 with Tampa Bay. Retires as the all-time leader in passing yards, passing touchdowns, QB wins. You can go on, but the intangibles that you both brought up are key as well. All right, guys, let's get to some wagering talk. How about we do that? I think that's part of Betting with the Barbers story here. So looking back at the AFC and the NFC championship games, what incredible a championship Sunday it was in the NFL. The Rams and the Bengals punched their tickets to the Super Bowl with last-second heroics. Both underdogs coming in. San Francisco barely covering that 3.5 points, losing by 3. And Cincinnati not only covered the 7, but they won outright, making 2 of us extremely happy. And the lone wolf who went with the favorites, not so much.
It's not my fault that Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, their great coordinator, couldn't figure out with any urgency how to score before the half. Momentum in the NFL is a real thing. Like we talked about,
that was a great defensive play. Go back and look at that play.
It was a horrendous offensive call. Eli Apple, I think Andy Reid thought he was going to get man coverage.
He did.
So if man coverage,
he did, and they looked like they were in man coverage. They looked like they were in man coverage,
but it wasn't.
I know. I know.
He thought
he saw the outcome of the play, dude. We know.
He thought he was getting man coverage, and in man coverage, Eli Apple is nowhere near that's edge of the end zone to make that play. But because they're playing man coverage and he has his zone, as soon as he sees that ball coming out the back door on a horribly designed play, because there was one place to go with that pass. One. It wasn't like a run pass option. It was one place to go. So he had to throw this undercutting backdoor flat route to Tyreek Hill, and Eli Apple sees it and he's just dead beat. Now,
all right, I'm going to change
from an execution standpoint. Tyreek Hill.
I'm going to change your mind. I'm going to change your mind on this play. I'm going to change because I watched it.
Here we go.
So
I went back and watched it. All right.
From a post-catch execution standpoint, Tyreek Hill shouldn't have tried to spin. He's a strong, powerful.
I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you back before that.
Get there.
I'm going to take you back before that.
Go ahead.
And it kind of played true the rest of the second half. Listen to this. Your quarterback, and I'm not doubting Patrick Mahomes. I know how good he is. But a quarterback, if it is exactly what you say, one place to put that football, as soon as he realizes that they are not in what he knows that they're supposed to be in, where does that ball supposed to go? Into the back of the end zone.
Yeah, exactly. Or in the ground. Just throw it in the ground.
Get rid of it. Throw it away.
Throw it at Tyreek Hill's feet.
Dump the play. Okay. Yeah. What I saw the rest of the game.
It's a great point. This is a great point.
What I saw the rest of the game was a quarterback, and you've said it many, many times on this show, probably on your radio show that you get to bloviate on.
No, we don't.
Hours a day about whatever. We don't talk about the Giants. Just like that Rooney Rule segment we did. Anyway,
easy.
Look. What I saw the rest of the day with Patrick Mahomes was a guy looking to make hero type plays the rest of the game. If you go back and watch that game, you have access to this game. Go back and watch how many times they dropped 7 and 8 defenders, and Patrick Mahomes had no idea what to do with the football.
That's right.
It was like he was in one read, and if that read wasn't there, he turned into a spinning top. And it was like, I'm going to try to make a hero play. I'm going to try to make a hero play, And eventually it caught up with him because he was like, you've sacked me enough. You've made me turn around 3 or 4 different times. I'm going to throw one of these and make a hero play. And the one he threw for an interception was the most ridiculous interception that I've ever seen a quarterback make in a pressure situation. He threw it to an offensive lineman that was just standing there doing nothing. Like, oh. All I got to do is catch this, and I'm going to turn the game around right now. This interception is going to turn the game.
Yeah.
And I just got it from Patrick Mahomes, and it was the entire second half, dude.
Yeah. 18 plays before the last drive, 18 plays, net 34 yards, 4 punts, and an interception. That was Pat Mahomes in the second half.
Tale of 2 halves.
Before the last drive. Last drive was obviously important, but they go down and kick a field goal.
Hey, full disclosure though, when it was 21-3 KC, I mean, Tiki, you were sitting pretty. And
I mean, I was sitting pretty, but I swear to God, Ron, as soon as they didn't score, the play that we just finished describing
at halftime,
in my mind, I said the Bengals are going to win this game.
Wow.
You could just see it.
Turning point.
You could see the lack of a plan. Like there was no plan. There was no urgency.
Yeah.
In that moment, they're driving to score. There was no urgency. They were just kind of like, hey, we're going to do this and do this. And do
well,
it's like, just go score.
Hey, if they scored there, because Tony Romo did a good job talking about this actually during the game. The game is only about possessions. There is a finite number of possessions in every football game. There are. Right. You're only going to get 6 or 7, maybe 8 a half. That would have been their 4th straight possession with a touchdown, right? That's given Cincinnati 3 shots at it, and they would have had their 4th straight possession with a touchdown. I only know one team that's given up that big of a lead in a bigger game, and I'm not going to mention it because those guys are my friends. But 28-3 at halftime is ball game over, and it wasn't. All of a sudden, it was like, okay, we got to stop, right? And then it's momentum, whatever, confidence, whatever you want to label it. Cincinnati had it. And I'm telling you what, give a lot of credit to the Cincinnati's defensive coordinator. They've been able to keep them in games all year long. There's been something about them because they're too young on offense to win, dude. You got a 3rd-year quarterback. You got a 1st-year receiver. You got a running back that's like a 4th-year guy. You got all these young pieces and then a bunch of castaways on defense that nobody wanted in free agency that they went out and got and said, hey, we're going to make this our team. And they're winning.
And straight up shut them out in that second half. Absolutely. I mean, hey, again, at 21-3 as they're driving, I was checking out the live betting lines on the Super Bowl game.
It's not good, right?
I was considering hedging that bet, but I mean, what a performance by the Bengals. 7-point dogs go into Arrowhead, pull off the upset, and now the Bengals are making their first Super Bowl appearance since I graduated high school in 1989. They are on 1 win away from that first Super Bowl championship. Don't say it. All right, let's move over into the NFC. Number 6 seeded San Francisco traveled to LA for what sure seemed like a home game against their nemesis and the number 4 seed LA Rams. 49ers swept the season series. Guys, they're up, talking about comebacks. They're up 17-7, and it looked like they were going to complete the sweep with 3 wins, but the Rams staged the comeback, scoring 13 points in that 4th quarter to rally for a 20-17 victory, snapping that 6-game losing streak to their divisional rival. More importantly, moving on to the Super Bowl. Again, the 49ers barely covering. They were getting 3.5. They lost by 3. I was panicking when the Rams got that pick at the end of the game. I thought it was going to be a pick 6, and there it went. But your thoughts on the NFC title game?
Well, another game that I was 100% correct on. And I mean 100% correct on. I do believe I said Cincinnati at Kansas City. Kansas City is hot. Cincinnati might be just as hot. They will cover, and there might be a sneaky win.
Yeah, that was the clip.
Game,
that was the clip.
I 100% remember saying LA is not good enough to cover 3.5. They're not 3.5 better than the San Francisco 49ers. And they weren't. So
yeah, but the issue in this game was obviously the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, obviously famous with the 28-3 loss of the New England Patriots when he was with the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl. I say you can't help but mention that, Rondé. You can't. And the lack of Deebo Samuel's involvement, or really
shocking.
Kyle Shanahan is the best play caller in the NFL. There's not even a question about it. He designs, he widgets his way into success, and then he has superior talent that helps him execute that success. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Elijah Mitchell, Brandon Ayuk, like all of these talents just accent his unbelievable play calling. When I did the San Francisco 49ers game earlier this season, I asked him specifically about Trey Lance, why he drafted him, and Jimmy Garoppolo. And he told me directly, I told Jimmy, you're not good enough to not be in the conversation of being replaced. You're not a top 10 quarterback. He told Jimmy this. You're a top 15 quarterback. Top 15 quarterbacks, they get replaced. That's why we drafted Trey Lance, because he can see so many other things that he can do with his offense. Let's not forget their offense. This is a retrospective on, or at least a forward-looking perspective on the 49ers. It's all run game, right? It's not like we're going to throw for 380 yards a game. It's all run game. Now, if you have Trey Lance who can figure out and do just enough of what Jimmy Garoppolo does, but also is a threat in the run game, that offense is going to be stupid. I mean, you talk about the triple option, like the wing T, like all these things that you used to see in football. We might see that from the San Francisco 49ers next year. Jimmy Garoppolo, as I mentioned, just isn't good enough. He just can't make those plays in those moments that matter. And he's always going to do something dumb. You know, I thought that Matt Stafford was that guy also, but I trusted Matt, interestingly enough, I trusted Matt Stafford more than I did Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, they did cover. Exactly. Matthew Stafford. These guys.
The emails are coming in already.
I mean, Kyle Shanahan had to put his faith in Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo let him down. That's as simple as it is. Simple as it goes.
To your point, Tiki, Jimmy Garoppolo's last 6 passes, because I thought Jimmy is a man. He's a game manager. I thought he was managing it all right, right?
I did too.
You're saying he is doing enough. All of a sudden, beginning of the fourth quarter, Cooper Kupp shows up, touchdown, second touchdown of the game. All of a sudden, oh, wow, okay, it's game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy G's last 6 passes of the game, incomplete, punt, incomplete, 3 yards loss, interception. When you need your quarterback to be his best, the very best, find a way to win me the game. We need to throw the football. We have to move. There's only a minute and a half left on the clock. We cannot run this anymore. We cannot do trick plays to Deebo Samuel and whatever else to formulate or manufacture offense. We need you to throw the football. 6 incompletions, 5 incompletions, 1 for a 3-yard loss, and an interception. That's Jimmy Garoppolo.
But if Sam Fran gets that pick, maybe he doesn't have to throw those balls.
Yeah, Jacarius Tart. Yeah, he just dropped the easy one.
Just saying, but there's so many elements going into that. I get what you're saying, guys. It was Rhonda, you had a great weekend. There's no doubt about it. Quickly before we move on, you had a great weekend, but how about the guy who predicted the final score in both of those games? He didn't even have to lay any money down. He had a free $20 bet that he hit. The odds of that 2-leg parlay hitting were 28,950 to 1. His free $20 bet paid over $579,000. That's a good weekend.
That's ridiculous.
That's awesome.
And
it wasn't us.
That's awesome.
And
it is awesome.
So, guys, that brings us to the matchup on Super Bowl 56 is ready. Rams and Bengals. We will have our exclusive picks, including some of our props, and we will break down this game with the Super Bowl edition of Betting with the Barbers next week. We've got some huge news. We'll be doing it from the Westgate in Las Vegas. The guys, quickly, let's just talk about this matchup. Rams entering into their 5th Super Bowl, 2nd appearance in 4 years. Bengals hoping to end the years of misery, capture that first Super Bowl championship. Couple notes with the spread. The Bengals have just been on fire, and I know Rondé's ridden that train all the way through, covered in their past.
There's a reason I've done
games. What, say again?
There's a reason I've been riding the Bengals this year.
100% covered in their past 7 games. 8-2 as an underdog. The Rams on the flip side went only 10-10 against the spread during the year, but and they have covered 6 out of their past 9 games, 5-5 as a favorite. That leads us to the current odds according to Superbook.com. Guys, the Rams opened up as a 4-point favorite Money coming in on LA, it's gone up to 4.5. The over-under point total sits at 48.5. Let's quickly get your take on not only that line, but the matchup. Tiki, we'll start with you.
Yeah, we'll save the line for next week. But I think as you look at the aesthetics of this game and who has the advantage, the Rams have been here, at least Sean McVay as the Rams coach, and some of the players have been here before. So this is their second trip to a Super Bowl. We know how they got out game planned by Bill Belichick in what was maybe the ugliest Super Bowl of this generation last 20 years, the 13-3 loss that they had to the Pats. But they are the home team, literally the home team, but figuratively, actually, literally, they're the away team.
Right.
But they're at home, which is a benefit for them. And as I look at this matchup, the only way the Bengals win, not against the spread, we'll hit that next week. The only way the Bengals win is if fate, this cliche,
Bengal magic,
this I don't know, this out of this world coincidence, whatever. Unless that's the only way they're winning this game, as I can look at it. Will they cover it? We'll talk next week.
I can't put any finality on the results of this game. It is an interesting matchup. Whether it's very popular, who knows? But I have a lot of Cincinnati Bengals fans. One of them's Olympic champion swimmer who told me he bought tickets right after they bought plane tickets without Super Bowl tickets right after they won the championship game. Really? Bengals fans are fanatic, right? They want this more than anything in the world. They're probably wishing it or praying it or however you get this into the universe for them to get to this spot. But now the reality is they got to go against the LA team that I said last week, and I 100% agree with this, have sold their soul to go and win the Super Bowl this year. They obviously had one intention, just like Tampa did last year, play a Super Bowl at home and win it, right? They passed the Super Bowl eye test better than any team that I thought was left in the playoffs, and they found a way to do it. It wasn't pretty, but they found a way to do it. Now, the reason that I have been on the Cincinnati Bengals all year is, yes, because they're young. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have never lost a playoff game together yet. This could be their last chance to. And, is betting a game of chance or is betting a game of skill? And the reality of it is it's a little bit of all of it. And do you know what this year is, people?
Oh, my goodness. I know where you're going.
This is the Chinese year of the
tiger. Yep. The year of the tiger. I saw that. Wow. Well, maybe there's a little tease right there. We don't know.
I gotta dive into the game a little bit more before I go any deeper. But yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, says the guy who's been riding that tiger bandwagon for 8 weeks or 10 weeks, whatever it is. No, guys, it's exciting time. We've unbelievably done 21 episodes of the show, and it's all led up to this. The Rams are currently 4.5-point favorites. So we will keep an eye on that line. We will break down the big game, make our picks. And one of my favorite things, I always talk some prop bets next week on the Super Bowl edition of Betting with the Barbers. Make sure to get in the game and sign up at superbook.com before Super Bowl Sunday. Download that Superbook app for the latest odds. And right now, there could be no better time to sign up because superbook.com is offering a super promotion. Get up to $1,000 matched on your first deposit. That's up to $1,000, a 100% deposit bonus match up to $1,000. So make sure you get to superbook.com, sign up before Super Bowl Sunday. Also, make sure you're following us on social media at Superbook Sports, at Betting with the Barbers, at Tiki Barber, at Rondé Barber, and at R. Krug. We are so excited to hit the town in Vegas and the Westgate and Superbook in Vegas. Come out and see us, guys, before we wrap up and gear up for Super Bowl week. Any final thoughts?
I got one observation. And you guys have been watching us all year do this. One of us is living in snow, and the other one is living. Look how much darker I am than Tiki Barber right now. Jeez.
My lighting is just better than yours.
I think I
It's
just
all
got
production.
You look like pasty. I'm
Yeah,
like,
because it's
oh,
11.
You
It's,
today.
it's
What
11
is going
degrees.
on? I'm gonna have to separate you. How do I
It's,
do that?
we're regularly 11 degrees here. I'm my natural color. You're sun baked blackest.
Hey, did either of you have to shovel 8 inches of snow today? That's my
Not
question.
today. Not today.
Not today. You
I don't
know
feel
the
for you,
feeling, though,
Rod.
Tiki.
I don't feel for you, Rod.
It's it's that guy who just got off the golf course who has no clue.
come to Florida. It's great here.
Yeah. All right. We're taking the show on the road after the Super Bowl. Guys, I can't wait. It's been an incredible year and really appreciate your insight today on some big topics that we really do need to look into and digest. But it's Super Bowl week, and I can't wait to see you guys in Vegas. It's going to be a lot of fun. Remember, Betting with the Barbers airs on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and at superbook.com. New episodes drop every Thursday. That's 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. The podcast version of Betting with the Barbers is available on Apple and Spotify. For the battling brothers today, the Barber brothers, I'm Ron Kruk for Rondé and Tiki Barber. We will talk some Super Bowl next week. That is all.